Shelter for Abused Women and Children's 25th anniversary celebration.
Yeah.
My name is Carolyn Teeger, and I am co-chair of the Shelter's Communications Committee, and I also have the honor today of co-chairing this event along with Joanne Remington. I have to say that looking around the room here and given all this law enforcement, I've never felt more secure in my life at an event.
Drive carefully going home.
I will. Thank you, Mayor. Speaking of our public officials, before we begin our program today, I want to take time to recognize all of the officials who are with us and who've come out today to help us celebrate the Shelter's silver anniversary and also kick off National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so as I call your name, would you please stand up? State Representative Kathleen Pasadoma. Florida State Attorney Steve Russell. Assistant State Attorney Rich Montecalvo. Collier County Commission Chair Georgia Hiller. Collier County Commissioner Donna Fiala. Collier County Commissioner Tim Nance. Collier County Sheriff Kevin Grimble. Collier County School Superintendent Dr. Kamala Patton. Naples Mayor John Sorey. Naples Police Chief Tom Weschler. And Marco Island Police Chief Don Hunter. What a lineup we have. That's incredible. Before our first speaker comes up, I want you all to know that Governor Rick Scott has issued a proclamation recognizing October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And he's also sent a very personal letter to the shelter in honor of its 25th anniversary, and I would like to share that with you at this time. As Governor of the Sunshine State, it is my pleasure to commend you on your 25th anniversary of the Shelter for Abused Women and Children. Thank you for your commitment to end domestic violence through empowerment, advocacy, innovative programs, and services. Your efforts to serve those in need and provide resources for your fellow Floridians are greatly appreciated. On behalf of the people of Florida, I appreciate your generosity, compassion, and caring attitude for others. As governor and as a father and a grandfather, I take the health and safety of Florida's families seriously. While we've made progress in making our communities safer, the reality is that even one violent crime is devastating. I am committed to making our communities safer and making Florida the greatest place to live, work, and raise a family. Congratulations again, and thank you for your dedication and conscientious leadership. Sincerely, Rick Scott, Governor. Thank you, Governor Scott. I'm relatively new to Naples. I moved here in 2009 after a 40-year career in Washington, D.C. And I have to say that when I went through the Greater Naples Leadership Program, I remember vividly how impressed I was when we did a tour of the shelter. And I also had the pleasure of meeting that day Linda Oberhaus. And by the time we'd finished talking, I knew that I was going to be a volunteer. That's how good she is. Linda is the person that you cannot say no to, and that is why she's been such a dedicated advocate for abused women, children, and yes, men in our community. Linda became executive director of the shelter in 2007. Since then, she has led the charge to develop a 3-year strategic plan, shifting the shelter's focus from emergency intervention to cutting-edge prevention programs. Under this plan, education and prevention programs were designed to affect real measurable change in the lives of victims and to stop domestic violence before it even starts. One such effort has been the creation of the Domestic Violence Task Force, and actually a lot of its members are here with us today. The task force has created a comprehensive plan and coordinated community response to domestic violence in Collier County. And this group means business. For example, the task force was the impetus that led Collier County Court Administration to adopt a best practices program for enforcing court orders. Perpetrators now know not to mess with this community because our courts are relentless when it comes to protecting victims and holding perpetrators accountable. Since its establishment, the shelter has been an evolving vision of hope, help, and healing for victims of abuse. Our state-of-the-art facility is one that we can all be proud of, especially so many Naples residents, public officials, volunteers, and the media who have supported the work of the shelter in so many ways. So at this time, I'd like to ask Linda to come up and provide us with a walk down memory lane and highlight some of the important achievements of the shelter in its journey over the last 25 years.
So 25 years ago, a group of concerned citizens in Collier County recognized a critical need to offer protection and support for victims of abuse and their families. Having raised a modest down payment, these volunteers braved resistance from neighbors and converted a fourplex in East Naples into Collier's first domestic violence shelter. The shelter opened its doors in 1989 after being granted 1 year by the County Commission to prove that its presence would not pose a threat to residents in the surrounding neighborhood. The shelter proved to be a good neighbor, but by 1999 had outgrown its space and found itself unable to meet the growing demand for services. Fortunately, the shelter had made some very special friends over its first decade. Among them, professional golfer and analyst Ken Venturi, whose wife Bo had been a faithful volunteer and shelter board member. Venturi set out to host a once-in-a-lifetime golf tournament that raised close to $1 million in seed funds that would become the Bo Venturi Home, a state-of-the-art 60-bed secure facility complete with on-site kennel, counseling offices, and an inside play area for kids. After the completion of the Bo Venturi Home, community support for the shelter continued to soar, and the shelter flourished. Programs were expanded in Naples, Immokalee, and Bonita Springs to include Gentlemen Against Domestic Violence, Elder Abuse Response, the Women of Means Initiative, and Human Trafficking Services and Support. The shelter began the design and construction of 4 transitional living cottages to offer qualified families a safe place for an extended stay on their road to self-sufficiency. The shelter has made much progress in building collaborations over the years, such as the Domestic Violence Task Force that Carolyn mentioned, which was created to identify the most effective ways for our community to respond to domestic violence. This synergistic team of community members, which include law enforcement, prosecutors, school officials, EMS, local hospitals, legal aid, as well as many other social service organizations, have created the comprehensive plan and a coordinated community response here in Collier County. And so we owe much gratitude to our law enforcement partners and the state attorney's office who work tirelessly for victims and their children to keep them safe while holding perpetrators accountable for their crimes. We also owe much gratitude to the leadership of Collier County Court Administration, who recently adopted the best practice model for enforcing court orders, sending a message to batterers that domestic violence will not be tolerated in this community. The shelter has made much progress, but our work continues. Today, some 57 full and part-time staff, joined by hundreds of dedicated volunteers, work to provide services for victims of domestic violence and human trafficking throughout Collier County, touching the lives of over 65,000 people over these last 25 years. As the shelter moves into the next 25 years, its staff and supporters envision a future that is free from domestic violence, where every home is a safe haven for families, so that emergency shelters are a thing of the past.
It's my honor and privilege to participate in the recognition of the 25th anniversary of the shelter. In that regard, I have a letter that I'd like to read, a brief letter to the board of directors for the shelter for abused women and children. And it reads, "Congratulations on your silver anniversary for serving the survivors of domestic violence in Collier County and the extraordinary contribution that the shelter has made. We at the State Attorney's Office are proud to partner with the Shelter for Abused Women and Children in combating domestic violence in Naples and Collier County. We have a mutual goal of providing compassionate, caring, and effective services to the victims of crime, a goal that our partnership helps to ensure is met. Please accept this plaque in recognition of the groundbreaking work as a model domestic violence center done by the shelter and signed and dated today." And in addition to that letter is a plaque. And Linda, perhaps I want to congratulate you on your excellent leadership over the years. If you would come out and perhaps accept this on behalf of the board. And the plaque reads, "Award of Excellence in Advocacy in recognition of groundbreaking work as a model domestic violence center for the state of Florida and the nation. The Shelter for Abused Women and Children, Naples, Florida, and dated today, appropriately signed." Congratulations and good luck.
Also, my pleasure to represent the men and women of the Collier County Sheriff's Office and recognize the 25th anniversary of the shelter. And a state-of-the-art shelter it is today. You know, I was thinking a little bit about how I would introduce our recognition for the shelter today. I have a plaque, which I'll read in a second, and I'll ask the director to come up. But, you know, in 1978, as a law enforcement officer for the city of Naples, we had domestic disputes. We didn't even have what is today termed domestic violence. Nor did we have the laws that assisted law enforcement today in making a difference. But I can tell you the thing that we missed the most, and we didn't understand that because we never had it until it came into being in 1989, but was a place that we could bring victims and their children to keep them safe, not only for the rest of the night, but for the rest of their lives. And when we tried to make those decisions early on, the best we could do was find a hotel, find a friend, find some way in which to keep those victims safe. Today, we have a much simpler, a much more professional way to assist them, and that's really what I'm here for today. And I'd like to ask Linda to come up, and we would like to recognize you formally. To the Shelter for Abused Women and Children from the Collier County Sheriff's Office, in recognition of your 25-year commitment to the victims of domestic violence and your partnership in keeping Collier County a great and safe place and providing those victims a safe haven for now and for the future, we congratulate you on all of your efforts and what you've done for this community and the shelter itself. Congratulations.
Recognizing 25 years of progressive leadership in ending domestic violence, presented to the Shelter for Abused Women and Children. And I'd like to read a special message from Tiffany Carr, who is President and CEO of the Coalition. The Florida Coalition Against Domestic Violence is proud to recognize this important chapter in the history of the shelter. Today's ceremony recognizes 25 years of progressive leadership in ending domestic violence in Collier County's homes, schools, businesses, and neighborhoods. The shelter represents an important component in the fabric of your community, as it is the only state certified domestic violence center in Collier County. For the next 25 years to come, under the direction of Executive Director Linda Oberhaus, the shelter will work to change the attitudes, knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors that tacitly support domestic violence. I congratulate your community for gathering today and participating